Today I'm going to be reading from Broccoli, issue 9. So I'm going to be reading you two different sections in here. One of them is called Global Dispatch, and it's high definitions. So Broccoli took a survey and asked readers to define their relationship to cannabis in one of three ways: medical, recreational, and it's complicated. The 27 answers represented 6 continents and broke down like this. 11% of those people consider their use medical, 37% considered it recreational, and 52% for it's complicated. And so we're going to check in with those answers from people from all over the world. So, some cannabis activists claim that all weed use is medicinal use. And it's undeniable. That one word, medicinal, has done a lot of heavy lifting to legitimize cannabis. But when you share an edible with a friend before you bliss out to a performance of psychedelic harp music, is medicinal the best way to describe the experience? We wanted to hear from you. So we sent out a survey, and Broccoli readers from around the world weighed in with their opinions on the possibilities and limitations of thinking of weed as medicine. So, first question. Some people claim that all cannabis is medicinal. Do you agree? Zen from Israel. I think it depends on what you feel inside. If you grow and use its powers, or if you only escape from reality. But maybe that's also medicinal to some people. So it's the emotion that you feel when you smoke. Lady Silverstone from Spain. I totally understand what people mean when they claim that all cannabis use is medicinal, because every moment with it I do feel better in my body and mind. But I can't fully agree, as I also can really enjoy the recreational part of it, enjoying a good dose of a homemade pot brownie while listening to music or watching a movie. And then Christian from Mexico, same question. Some people claim all cannabis use is medicinal. Do you agree? I agree wholeheartedly. It can alleviate pain and stress, help with disordered sleeping and eating, and soften the edges of living in such a chaotic world. Okay, next question. Do you believe that you can use weed just for fun? Pancho Villa from the United States. Yes, it can turn otherwise basic tasks into micro celebrations of life. Tiffany from South Africa. No, I believe this plant will heal you regardless of the intention you set when you consume it. That's why it's so amazing. It also happens to be really, really fun. Melissa from the United States and Canada. The same question. Do you believe that you can use weed just for fun? Hell yeah. Maybe there are medicinal effects happening behind the scenes, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily matter because weed can just feel good. Jacqueline from France. Totally. Sex with weed. That's all she says. Lobach from Malaysia. No. Knowing that it has so many medical benefits, and that's the key to legalization for closed-minded countries at least. And Ria from Canada. I personally would not use weed just for fun, since I'm extremely susceptible to panic attacks. However, I would rather be around someone on THC than someone who is drunk. Okay, next question. Is thinking of weed as medicine a good thing or too limiting? So Claire from the United States. Thinking of weed as medicine is a good thing, but the classification of medical versus recreational only serves to further disenfranchise and stigmatize those who don't have a medical cannabis card. Medical users should not be considered holier than recreational users, which they often are, despite the fact that the only difference is their name on a form and ability to afford medical classification. Jacqueline from France. It's limiting. I see so many labels in Europe stating no THC as a good thing, and it adds more stigma, as if only CBD and medicinal use are socially allowed. Say from Germany. If weed could be legalized without having to hide behind a medicine, I'd be happy. So again, the question is thinking of weed as medicine a good thing or too limiting? Ash from the United States. It's too versatile a plant to limit to just medicine. Sometimes you just want to feel good or share something with a friend or get a bit baked and watch your favorite foreign film. Tiffany from South Africa. I like the word therapeutic as it covers both bases. I found in cannabis it's important to access people on every level and not alienate anyone. There's already so much stigma to break, so using broader terms helps to be more inclusive of all the reasons people think they are using cannabis. Lobak from Malaysia. The weed plant is like a banana tree. There are uses for all parts of it. So again, the question is thinking of weed as medicine a good thing or too limiting? Melissa from the United States. I think thinking of weed as medicine is good in encouraging us to explore its potential and help build up its positive reputation, but I think weed should remain as more than that. It has a deep tradition and cultural history that includes the medicinal, but is much more as well, and weed should be able to be all of those things. Ale Paz from Brazil. Aboriginal people always use herbs as a way of treatment. Thinking of weed as medicine is just giving this knowledge the prestige it deserves. Lisa from the United States. If that's all weed is seen as, medical, then yes, it's too limiting. That's like saying sex is only for procreating. Weed is so useful and helpful and harmless. Set it free. Alright, so yeah, that was from Global Dispatch. I hope you can see that. Okay, and so I wanted to also bring in this other article because I just felt really inspired by her work and her story. And so here is her one piece of artwork, and I'll show you more in just a second here. So Mayumi Oda. Women's bodies flow from the ocean and ripen in the vegetable patch in this Japanese artist's canvases. And so yeah, the artist again, Mayumi Oda. Okay. Oh yeah, starts off with more work. Okay. Twice a day, the artist Mayumi Oda sits cross-legged, silently following her breath in Zen meditation. I learn a lot about what it is I'm drawing or painting, she says of these periods of concentration. Only then, when the vision is clear, will she grab her paintbrush and embark on her next work. Like most things in Oda's life, an act that appears effortless is underpinned by rigorous discipline. Oda, whose lengthy career has seen her celebrated at more than 50 solo shows around the world, as well as included in the permanent collections of the Museum of Modern Art in New York and the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, has always treated her trade with reverence. As a student at the prestigious Tokyo University of Fine Arts, she would practice drawing for 12 hours a day. With a pencil, I could draw exactly the way that something looked, she recalls. In the decades since, this self-mastery has been applied to the joyful, vividly colored paintings that have established her position at the forefront of modern Japanese art. I can draw something very simply, like Matisse, who influenced me a great deal. She explains of the technical skill that supports her creativity. Very simple lines can express 1,000 words. Because of the training I had, it just came naturally. Born into a genteel family in Tokyo, Oda's artistry was encouraged from childhood, but Japan's deeply traditional culture felt restrictive. As she notes, she grew up in a men's culture that demanded women's subservience. After marrying an American, the translator John Nathan, who translated the works of celebrated Japanese authors into English, the pair relocated to the U.S. in the 60s. There, Oda was introduced to a fiercely intellectual crowd that baptized her into the women's liberation movement. So here's some more. And it continues. He was an enormous man with an enormous heart, says Oda of her former husband. The couple divorced in 1979. His translations, his writing were so incredible that his life was filled with a lot of amazing people, and amazing people became my life too. As her interest in feminist ideology deepened, female beauty emerged as a central theme in her work. A 4-part collection of nudes titled French Postcard Series features curvaceous women in states of repose, a bright pop of lavender highlighting a pubic region, a dab of blush pink swept over the nipple. After the births of her 2 sons, Oda's own transformative experiences as a woman also started to appear. A monochrome work in her Goddess series depicts a naked woman, her hips swollen into a generous curve, an infant cradled into one side and her breast exposed on the other. Behind, scrawled handwriting reads, "Mother, help us outgrow our madness and fear." You go through childbirth, you change enormously, says Oda. Basically, I started to draw the strength of the woman that man cannot have. After living in New York, Massachusetts, and California, Oda eventually settled in Hawaii. It's halfway from America to Japan, she shrugs, but the island's wild beauty, coupled with a cultural newness that feels liberating after the age-old traditions of her homeland, have kept Oda captivated. She lives alongside her son and daughter-in-law on Ginger Hill Farm Retreat, a 5-acre plot of paradise that offers yoga retreats, introductory courses into sustainable farming, and work trade schemes. I love to see things growing, she adds. It becomes art. Broccoli is incredibly beautiful. The cauliflower, and then in Hawaii we have an ocean, so there's beautiful coral reef. Now 78 years old, Oda retains the singular will that shaped her earlier years, first as a young woman rejecting the constraints of her society, and then as an artist forging her identity in an unfamiliar culture. Most mornings she'll turn her attention to editing her autobiography, which details her years as an anti-nuclear activist in the 90s. Afterwards, she'll trace the Buddhist sutras by hand, a centuries-old spiritual practice that was historically undertaken by monks. Her own set of tarot cards is also in the pipeline in the hope that it'll inspire a younger generation to connect with the higher powers. How, I venture, has she seen her work evolve throughout her career? With characteristic candor, Oda quickly corrects me. I don't think it's evolved at all. I still have the interest of a 3-year-old. Thank you for joining me for this read-along today. Mayumi Oda. So yeah, if you guys want to read more, check out the magazines at our shop. If you're on Guam, we'll be doing a pop-up in May, Mother's Day weekend. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you guys there. Super excited. So yeah, have a great day.